Hi, Sachin.
Hi, hello. So Dinkar, this is a continuation of our last conversation. So to just do a quick recap of 15 seconds, we were talking about how we met a high performance team which had excellent engineering excellence metrics, and they were elite on Dora scale. They were also excellent on technical debt and other aspects. Now, the question was, despite all of their achievement, the business was feeling there is something missing, and they wanted to like improve things. From such an envious position, it was very difficult to imagine that they are struggling, but the struggle was real. And we concluded last time that it is it is not enough that engineering metrics are showing the full picture. You need to also comprehensively think about whether the business outcomes are being met or not. And to do that, we need to bring, first of all, the business, that is product and business, together with the engineering, find the ownership, and make sure that they agree upon the metrics and how to achieve them. There was one critical concept you brought to the table, which is it's not good enough to know what metrics, but also how to put those metrics in the context of team, and you call that the modeling of metric. So let's talk about modeling of metric today.
Sure, a quick recap, right? For the business, we do recommend that you should have metrics which belong to these categories. Ideally, have for all four. If not for all four, at least try to have it for three, most as much as possible. So then comes the next question, Sachin, that people have asked us is, can you give us examples of these metrics? And I have shared, and I think at some point maybe we should share it with the larger audience also. Over years, we have collected around 600, 700 metrics that different type of products have been using. And as part of answering that question, as we were researching, we realized that there are certain characteristics about these metrics, and we started calling them fitness metrics.
Yes.
And now the question comes, what is a fitness metrics? And I want to address the first aspect of a fitness metric, that a fitness metric should be well modeled. Now, the reason I want to pick up that one is because well modeling of a metric can also be actually handled for any kind of metric, right? So let's kind of quickly look at what does it mean to properly model a metric, right? Now, what I mean by a fully modeled metric is that if you take today, for example, right, someone is going to say that, let's take an example, right? We have built a web app which opens up, let's say, a form to a potential customer, provides some, maybe it's a landing page. It provides some key information dynamically put together based upon the user and where they are coming from, all those parameters. Probably it has a form which someone fills. And the aim of this web app is to have very good conversion, for example, right? Now, most of the time, and I had some experience in my previous life in advertising, and everyone is just focused on that, right? This is what our conversion ratio should be, CTRs, or cost to acquisition, cost. But if you look at it from that perspective, right, the most basic modeling people do is they put a face value and they put a unit. And this is where I think that if it's not modeled properly, it can lead to some misleading behaviors. It can lead to some undesired behaviors, in the sense that people may try to optimize the metric in a way that does not help the final outcome, right? And one way of avoiding that is by modeling it properly. So what does that mean? The first thing that I want to talk about is the industry reference, right? Now, someone who is thinking of a metric should have a very good clarity on, for similar product, built probably by similar team, or applicable in certain domain or some segment of users, what is happening elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
You should be aware of what's happening in that industry, right? So you may choose to overperform, you may choose to achieve that, or maybe if you're far behind, you may say that, I just want to at least reach 20% close to that reference, right? But knowing what is happening is very important, because then you don't set unrealistic goals for yourself. And one of our popular example for this is for lead time. For a web app or for a retail website, deploying multiple times a day makes sense. That's a good, and that's what the industry reference also talks about. But if you are building a data platform which has demographics data in it, which is used by an algorithm to decide to give someone a loan or reject someone a loan, it goes through so much of testing, it goes through so much of regulatory checks, it goes through a lot of business risk analysis, it goes through a lot of uh, opportunity, making sure that you're not discriminating against set of users. So many checks happen that deploying multiple times a day is neither an expectation of the business, nor is it practically possible. So what you look around industry and you'll say, hey, typically in our banking industry, lead time for such platform tends to be 3 months, right? So importance, that's the importance of understanding your industry reference. The second thing is you should always talk about where you are today, right?
Yeah.
So just saying that I want, let's say I want a conversion rate of 50%, and you say that we are going to build this and we are going to hit it as soon as it goes live, does not really make sense. You need to know where you are today.
Yeah.
And what that means is, and you cannot take just yesterday I was at this, or sometimes someone may try to act very smart and say in past 6 months during Diwali, I had the best sales. So I'll take that day as a baseline and tell everyone we have to do better than that, right?
Yeah.
So baseline, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Dinkar, but you bring a very crucial point. And in my mind, there are some rule of like there are some standard rules which we can follow, and principles or guidelines, you would say, for baselining. Your baselining should be average of a longer period. So if your business is looking at monthly or quarterly, go at least couple of quarters. If you are doing monthly, go at least 6 months in the past. And the reason for that is, if there is any cyclical nature of your business, which as you picked out Diwali or Black Friday in case of Northern Hemisphere, or in Europe, there are in summer people actually do a lot more shopping. It's like you need to identify these periods and then make sure that yes, you include them, but there are some technology behaviors, engineering behaviors associated with them. For example, in a retail company in North America, at least, you would not want to deploy one day before Black Friday sale. 2 weeks before, you freeze your code. It is not about Elite, it is not about Dora, it is nothing about any surprises. It is just that they want a rock solid system in place for Black Friday.
Right.
And for you remember, one of our company was into fitness, and for them, the first week of January was the best week of the year. So they don't want to deploy anything before, like after Christmas. They want everything to be frozen by mid-December, because you don't want to have any surprises which you haven't accounted for. So baselining is something which you should have on a couple of quarters or few months, and make sure that if there is a such event happens, at least it is factored in.
Right. Yeah, New Year resolution is a very big sales driver for certain organizations, right? So so that's why baselining yourself is very important, right? Then comes after your baseline, then we should talk about success marker and threshold of failure. So success marker, we all know. Hey, today I am at 20% conversion rate. We are going to build this web app which is going to give very contextual information, latest information, dynamically stitched together. The form will pre-fill as much as possible, so it's minimum, yeah, clicks for the user. You make all of this, and we should reach 80%. So that becomes your success marker. But then comes the conversation around failure, and this is where everyone gets uncomfortable and no one wants to talk. And that's why having this conversation and that being part of the model is very important. And what does failure mean? So, for example, this organization have said that after stitching this together, based on our analysis, looking at industry references, I've talked to a couple of other of my colleagues who have done these kind of things. It's like we should be hitting 80%. Now, let's say that event happens, it's all there, but the conversion rate instead of 80 is 79. So I want to ask the team, have you failed? No, of course. We are successful. 79, 80, that's okay. Okay, what if it was 70%? Good, we're not there, but we have made it. We came from 20, right? What about 60%? Little uncomfortable. We shouldn't be at 60%. Let's go back. Let's involve the designers. Let's involve user research people. Are we missing something? Did we miss some clue? What if it goes to 50%? No, this is not doable. 50%, I'll go and bang at the door of the product management team, at the user designers, technology team, look at, is page loading faster or not? We'll do a lot of investigation. What if it is at 40%? Are you kidding? We were at 20%, we spent $1 million, and if I'm going to give 40%, I'm going to lose my job. And that, I tell that person, is that's your threshold of failure. And it's very important to know the threshold of failure. And the first time I started discussing with this, and a lot of engineering managers became a little uncomfortable. And the common response I hear is that the moment I define threshold of failure, people will just make sure they're above it. But there's a timeline component to it, right? It's not that I just need to stay above. But if you're not growing regularly, if you're not improving regularly, if you're just staying about the, some threshold of failure or some level over a period of time, that's where the definition of threshold of failure is not just that if we do not hit this criteria, because sometimes things may go bad. Sometimes, you are on your step to improvement, you are at that. But if you stay near that threshold for a prolonged period of time, and how much is that is totally dependent upon, as you called out, right? If the cyclic nature is monthly, then maybe a couple of months. If it's daily, then couple of days. If it's quarterly, then like that, right? Depending upon the nature of the.
So Dinkar, there is one element which I would like to add. The reason why threshold of failure, it should be seen differently in my mind. The reason why threshold of failure exists is not to say your work has failed or you didn't meet your target. You always have a metric. Let's say we want to have conversion ratio based on the improvements which we drive in our engineering. I am responsible for, let's say, search aspect of my products on e-commerce site. If we know our top 5 successful categories have a conversion ratio of between 8 and 11%. I'm just making up numbers. So for any product to call itself like it is meeting that baseline of 8 to 11, if it is going there, that means the product is coming in our top performers. If it is between 4 to 8%, that means the product actually is not in high demand, but people search for that, and there is a conversion ratio for it. And there are other aspects of like some like essential products. You search, you add. It's like Surf Excel. You don't wait for that. Oh, and let me compare that and all that stuff. If you are searching for Surf Excel, there is 90% chance you are buying it. But if you are buying, let's say, for shoes, there is a pretty good chance that you are first going to look at shoes and then compare the prices and all that stuff. So in my mind, people should not associate threshold of failure with threshold of team. It is the threshold of that particular hypothesis to reassess their assumptions or change of ways of like certain technical aspects or story or scope. there could be n number of things which could participate in making that measurement go positive or negative.
Yeah.
The threshold is only necessary for people to go and have a conversation why this threshold is not going up. Our hypothesis was it was supposed to go up.
Right. And just to want to call out that we have not been sponsored by Surf Excel. That was just a random example. I, I don't mind being sponsored by Surf Excel.
Dinkar,
Probably they'll want us to wear white t-shirts that day. And
Dinkar, I mean, we are not even in the same ballpark of Surf Excel business. So, nobody thought that we are actually being sponsored by Surf Excel. But by the way, Surf Excel, it is not product which is sponsored, but I go to Amazon to buy Surf Excel, and it is not sponsored by Amazon too.
And you called out very important, right? The threshold of failure, it's not the failure of the team, it's the failure of that feature, that failure of that hypothesis that drove the implementation of that feature when that feature hit the market. And what to do if that happens, right?
Exactly.
Do we pivot? Do we just kill, right? Sunk cost, kill it? Or do we go back and do more user research? And that's why comes the next important part of modeling of that metric is the remediation plan. When things go wrong, that's the worst time to go and start thinking, how should we react? Because then a lot of, instincts come in, like blame someone else, not my problem. Someone else is at fault. I didn't get this information. We don't have this tool. Totally non-productive, right? System one thinking really it takes time for people to click in system two thinking, where you're looking at things analytically. So it's better that you have a plan upfront, which everyone sits together and agrees that if this goes wrong, that means our hypothesis was wrong, or our belief that this feature is needed at this point, is needed at this scale, is needed at all to deliver this value, or even the way we have implemented it, it does not deliver the value, and probably the implementation or a design number two might be needed, right? So this remediation plan becomes very important, right? And wherever all of these things are coming in, the as I said, right, when things go bad, nobody wants to own the problem, everyone wants to blame. So it's good that you have an ownership matrix upfront. A very typical thing is to do a RACI: who's responsible, who's accountable, who should be consulted, who should be informed. But some ownership metric that if things are going wrong, this is the person who will lead the investigation, for example. This is the person who will kickstart the analysis, who will figure out things, who will come up and explain to everyone what went wrong so corrective measures can be taken. For this person to be given all the information, who are the people who are responsible for giving all the information, timely information, cooperating, so that this person can make that analysis. And when things are going wrong, who needs to be informed, who needs to be considered, all of this has to fall into place. So if we look at it, right, so a metric should not just be, hey, 80% CTR, 80% conversion. It should be, we are today at 20% conversion. With this new capability that we are pushing, we hope to reach 80%. But if we are unable to go beyond 40% for a couple of weeks, that means things have drastically gone wrong. And this is responsibility of Sachin to go and figure out that, do we need to pivot? Do we need to kill this feature? Or did we get some hypothesis totally wrong? Do we need to go and do some user research? All those things. And Sachin will work with these teams to make that happen, because the success metric we have chosen is a sane one, because we know what others are doing. We have an idea about the industry reference. So something has gone wrong, which we need to investigate it. And that's why the fully modeled metric is so important, rather than just saying that 80% conversion rate.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very valid point. If that method happens, the ownership is defined very well. Then rather than people start identifying faults of other ownership members, it will be a very productive steps to make sure that it goes into the right direction. So that's very wonderful.
And probably in the next conversation, we should talk about other aspects. What makes a fitness metric the right kind of metrics? Why
Yeah.
being multivariate is important? Why focusing on outcome is important? And maybe we can cover those in the next one. This was very
Yeah.
good, Sachin. I think you asked a question I'm obviously very passionate about, because given my product management experience and focus on metrics, to the extent there are a lot of organization that specifically say no to KPIs, because people get so obsessed with that singular number that the outcome kind of vanishes, and just achieving that number becomes very critical. And it works in certain scenarios. It has totally different effect in other scenarios. So I believe part of that is because the metric has not been modeled properly.
Yeah.
So very interesting subject. Thanks for bringing this up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care, Sachin. See you next time.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.